Hey everyone. So if your company's cloud strategy feels like it's pulling in a dozen different directions all at once, well, you're definitely not alone. Today, we're going to dive into one of the biggest puzzles in tech right now. How do you actually govern a sprawling multi-cloud world without grinding everything to a halt? Let's just get right to the heart of it. Your teams are probably using AWS over here, Azure over there, maybe some GCP, and new services are popping up constantly. Now, that's fantastic for innovation, but it also raises a really important question. Who's actually in charge? Who owns the security? Who's watching the costs? Who is steering the ship? That's the problem we're going to unpack today.
So here's how we're going to tackle this. First, we'll lay out the big governance challenge itself. Then, we're going to look at two models that are polar opposites, the super-controlled centralized fortress and the wide-open decentralized frontier. After that, we'll see how a hybrid approach tries to find a smart balance, and we'll wrap up with a framework to help you figure out the right path for your own organization.
All right, first up, the governance challenge. This subtitle really says it all. This is the constant push and pull that every tech leader feels. How do you put some guardrails in place, create some sense of order, without completely strangling the speed and the creativity that made you go to the cloud in the first place? Yeah, let's be real here. The whole debate about if a company should use multiple clouds, that's over. It's happening. It's here. The real question now is, how on earth are you going to manage it all? Because without a plan, without some kind of governance, that reality gets inefficient, insecure, and incredibly expensive really fast. So let's explore our first approach. This is the centralized model, and I love this metaphor for it, the fortress. Just picture that in your mind. Really high walls, a single way in and out, and one authority that guards the gates. It's all about control. So in this world, there's one and only one specialized team that acts as the gatekeeper. If a developer on some project needs a new database, or a server, or really any cloud service, they can't just go get it. They have to file a ticket and wait for this central team to do it for them. This team literally holds all the keys to the cloud kingdom.
And the org chart is exactly what you'd expect. It's super straightforward. You've got that one central platform team right at the top, and then every single business unit, A, B, C, you name it, they all have to go through that one team. It's a classic hub and spoke setup, and it's built for one thing, maximum control.
So what does that get you? Well, here's the trade-off. The pros are pretty obvious, right? With that much control, you get amazing standardization, you get a really strong security posture, and you can keep a tight lid on costs. But the cons are the flip side of that same coin. That central team becomes a massive bottleneck. It slows down your time to market. And honestly, that team often doesn't have the business context to know why one team's request is so urgent.
In this quote, it just nails the feeling, doesn't it? We're secure, but it takes 6 weeks to get a new database. You've got all the control you could ever want, but your business teams are just sitting there, waiting, unable to get the tools they need to actually move forward.
Okay, so if the fortress is too rigid and too slow, what's the alternative? Well, let's swing to the complete opposite end of the spectrum. Let's talk about the decentralized frontier model. This is all about speed, agility, and basically letting teams run free.
In this setup, there is no central gatekeeper. There's no single team you have to ask for permission. Instead, that platform expertise, those cloud skills, are embedded directly inside the individual business units. Each team gets to operate on its own, choose its own tools, and move at its own pace.
And the org structure totally reflects that freedom. See? The platform teams aren't off in some separate ivory tower. They're right there, inside Business Unit A, inside Business Unit B. They are on the front lines, working shoulder to shoulder with the business. The upside here is huge, and it's immediate. You get incredible speed and agility. Because those teams are so close to the business, they can innovate like crazy. But the cons? Well, they're the mirror image of the fortress's problems. You get cost duplication, because everyone's buying their own version of the same tool. Security risks go way up without that central oversight. And any hope of standardization just goes right out the window. And this quote captures that Wild West feeling perfectly. We launched in a weekend, but now we have 3 different monitoring tools. That initial burst of speed feels amazing. But the cleanup job? That can be a total nightmare of tangled, expensive, and insecure systems.
So that brings us to the big question, right? If one model is too slow and the other is pure chaos, where's the middle ground? How do you find that balance? This is where we need to talk about a strategic hybrid approach.
Just take a second and look at this, because this slide is the whole challenge in a nutshell. On the left, the fortress gives you control and consistency, but it's slow. On the right, the frontier gives you speed and autonomy, but it leads to chaos. The big aha moment is realizing this isn't an either-or choice. The goal is to strategically blend the best parts of both.
So in a hybrid model, the role of that central team completely changes. They stop being a gatekeeper and they become an enabler. They don't provision every little thing. Instead, they build a secure, standardized paved road. The core stuff like identity management, networking, basic security scanning. Then, the business units are free to build whatever they need as fast as they can, right on top of that safe foundation.
Okay, a hybrid model sounds great, but how do you figure out the right balance for your company? It's not one size fits all. So in this last section, let's walk through a framework to help you make that call.
And this, right here, is probably the most important thing to remember. There is no single right answer. A highly regulated bank is probably going to lean more towards the fortress. A scrappy startup is going to lean hard into the frontier. Most companies are going to land somewhere in the middle. Your specific context is everything. So here's where you start. Ask your teams these 3 questions. First, how fast do you actually need to move to win in your market? Second, what is your real tolerance for risk, both security and financial? Be brutally honest. And third, what's the cloud maturity of your teams? Can they actually handle all that autonomy, or do they need a bit more handholding? Your answers to these questions will point you to the right spot on that spectrum. In the end, it all comes down to this one question. Good governance isn't about control just for the sake of control. It's about building a system that helps your organization move as fast as it possibly can, safely. So I want you to go back to your team and ask this. Is our current approach to governance an accelerator that's helping us win the race, or is it an emergency brake that's just holding us back? The answer will tell you everything you need to know.